Live from New York, it's a show that is taking Aaron Rodgers' advice. My name is Kevin Wildes, and I've never played lacrosse.
He said vax status. You thought it was lax status?
I was wondering, it didn't make sense. Yeah. But we're starting with the Cup champions. Giannis, Dame, and Doc dispatch of a Thunder team that honestly looked totally overmatched. I know I was getting reprimanded for not believing in the Thunder since I've
certainly don't believe after last night.
No, but I do believe in Chet, so maybe that's it. Giannis, triple-double, 26, 19, 10, and 3 blocks. Some MVP chance at the end of the game. Okay. Giannis's numbers in closeout game / championship, pretty good. 30, 14, 6 assists, field goal percentage.
And you said going into last night's game that's what you expected.
Yeah, that wasn't a hot take. I'm surprised you guys left me alone on Giannis's amazing island.
I thought Giannis, I think we both thought Giannis could play great, but that OKC would win the game. Right. But no, you nailed it.
I've got a great Doc Rivers stat coming up.
Okay, cool.
Hear this. Okay, so what did the Bucks prove to you?
Well, first of all, shout out to Giannis, not just for the great game, but that post game. I've never seen a championship interview, after you win something, that intense. Like, my man is locked in. I'm a little bit frightened after that interview. He was like, we trying to win, we playing good basketball. Like, I like that, though. I like that. So, shout out to Giannis for that. He is locked in. I think, Nick, they proved they're legitimate contenders. I'm not saying they're ahead of Boston or anything like that, but they have moved from, they started 2-8, and everybody was like, oh, my gosh, what is going on? They're not even contenders anymore. They've righted themselves. They've been 12-3, best record in the league since then. And they are now in the hunt for the championship, which, to be honest, is where you should be.
If you have Giannis.
With Giannis and Dame. They got they got the highest scoring duo in the league. And what's happened now is defensively, and I'm going to give you credit, Wiles, because you have been saying, why don't you play Andre Jackson Jr. from UConn? And he's not a great player. He can't score offensively, but he's athletic, he's young. And you just say to him, look, go focus on defense. Lock him down. Don't worry about the scoring. We've got 2 great scorers. Lopez can score. We got a few other guys that can score. That team is sorely lacking athleticism. And so with him out there, and Taurean Prince is a good defender, you got guys, in fact, Brook Lopez and Giannis are good defenders too. So you can protect the rim with their size. And they're huge compared to a lot of NBA teams just with those two. And then when you got some athletes that can guard the perimeter, defensively, Nick, that's what's turned them around. Last night they held OKC to season lows in points, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage. And so I think the Bucks have shown, you know what? We are here, and we're going to have to be reckoned with.
And luckily for OKC, these season lows will go into the atmosphere because this game doesn't actually count.
Right,
it's not on the basketball reference page. Like, I was looking up. I was like, when's the last time OKC only hit 5 threes in a game? So I went to their basketball reference schedule for the year. And I'm like, wait, this game's not on there. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is a make-believe game, but it's actually super important.
They got to figure something out.
So listen, on that note, I do want to say this before I get to the Bucks piece of it. Perfect for the NBA.
Cosign.
And LeBron winning this and caring, and then Giannis winning it and caring, I believe now means, and this isn't a retroactive thing, I joked about Jordan not having one, but I now think, standard set moving forward, this is a thing you need to have on your resume if you're a great player. Now that you
remember, and I said, I didn't say it that way, but I said years from now people be like, so-and-so's got 5 rings and 4 NBA cups.
And I also think it's something like where it won't be as much of like how many you have, but you got to get one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like it would have been different had Houston won it this year. No disrespect to Houston, but it was
fair.
The fact that LeBron, Giannis, first 2, it's like, oh, it matters. It is indicative of something. So that's good. I do think the NBA should consider, in addition to the $500,000 cash bonuses for the players, giving the teams a win bonus in the standings. To where it's like you have a real incentive. Like, hey, man, if you finish the year with 50 wins, but you won the NBA Cup, you get credit for winning the Cup.
So maybe it's the first tiebreaker or something?
Or just a first tiebreaker, or just literally add a win. I know that the math then will be like, oh, they played 83 games, the other teams played 82, but so be it. You don't get a loss for OKC, but you get the win if you're the other team. Now, as far as Giannis, I agree with almost everything you said, Brew, and I was shocked at how little the odds makers agree. So this was one where DraftKings and FanDuel are way further opposed or off than I've seen on almost anything that matters. But right now on FanDuel, it's a major sports book, the Bucks have the 10th best championship odds. They're 27-1. They are behind Boston, OKC, you'd expect it, and then also the Knicks, the Mavs, the Cavs, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors, and the Timberwolves. And I just think, while I don't think this is a perfectly built team, I think it has flaws, and I wouldn't be shocked if they get bounced in round one of the playoffs. I think it's on the board because the top of the East is so hard. But when you have Giannis, who is playing like this, if we put up his numbers, career high in points per game, almost 33 a game, career high in field goal percentage, has taken 17 threes all year.
Love it.
So that's, that was the biggest weakness of his game, so he just removed it. Yeah. It's essentially on pace for a career low in free throws. In three-pointers. Now, unfortunately, his free throw percentage is career low. 61 is too low. He needs to be up in the mid-high 60s. But when you have that guy who cares as much as he does, you are more than in the mix. You are, after the best teams, everybody's flawed. Yeah. So go with the one who will have the best player. And Giannis will be that guy in that other group.
Here's the other thing with Giannis. Nowadays, teams are forcing you to the mid-range. Yes. Like, they're kind of running you off the three and pushing you to the mid-range, and the floor is spread out. Giannis, with his size and athleticism, is not going to have to stop at the mid-range. He's going to go all the way to the basket, and there's not that much resistance there. And even if there was, with his skills and his height, he can still score there. But he's shooting 61%. Yeah. So I think it's easier for him to score
61% on 32 a game is basically unprecedented territory.
But in today's NBA, it's not much resistance at the rim.
Looking forward quickly before we turn our attention to the Thunder. Why I agree with your add a win to the total. Remember last year the Lakers lost 5 of their next 6. So not only should the win not disappear, you probably expended more energy, some emotional capital that might show up. Now, luckily for the Bucks, they've got Cleveland on Friday in Cleveland. I could see them losing that. But then they don't play another team over 500, the Wizards, the Bulls, the Nets, Chicago, and Indiana. But I wanted to ask you if you had, or if you liked, Darvin Ham's suggestion where the Bucks did not celebrate. They left the Michelob Ultra there. They left the champagne there because they want to stay focused on the championship.
I think it's fine. I thought Darvin gave some interesting quotes the last couple days. There's a whole article in Anscape about how he deserved an extension for what he did with the Lakers. I disagree with that.
They had a better record, right?
At this moment, I see that, people making you're trying to bait me into a Darvin Ham thing.
I'm here for it.
I thought you had a Doc Rivers thing.
That's for the Thunder.
Oh, it's for the Thunder. All right, well, go ahead.
Nothing whets Nick Wright's appetite like a stat that he hasn't seen.
No, I
scoured the internet. I did want to see it.
I
wanted to see it too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because look, quickly on Doc, if they were just 14-11 and hadn't started 2-8, people would be like,
it'd be disappointing.
It'd be the same old Doc Rivers conversation. Like, what is Doc doing?
Yeah.
Thunder
now
weren't
it looks good.
They took 32 threes. They made 5 of them, as Brew mentioned, 34% overall. SGA came in averaging 30. He only put up 21. Season worse in pretty much every shooting category there was. Maybe just a random bad shooting night, but did the loss sour you on OKC?
Certainly not sour. That's way too strong. And remember, they're not at full strength. They didn't have Chet Holmgren playing, and I know Middleton, for the Bucks, but they didn't have he's limited. They didn't have Holmgren, who will be back, whether it's January, early February, whatever. He'll get reevaluated in January, and we'll see. But Chet is a really good player and getting better. So he's a future, at least star. I think maybe I'd lean towards superstar, future superstar.
Don't tell me anything.
Yeah, and I do think at some point they need to win some important games. All right. Last year, #1 seed in the West, get beat in 6 by Dallas. This year, #1 seed in the West, don't even compete well in this game. And like I said, had several season lows.
Well, yeah, but the semifinal was, I guess, an important game. Like you know what I mean?
But
they haven't had a bunch of opportunities.
Here's the thing with the challenge with them. They've got one guy that can create his own offense. Now, Jalen Williams has gotten better at it, but it's really Shea is the guy. And in big games, whether it's mainly we're talking about the playoffs. I'm not going to lift this to the level of a playoff game. But in the playoffs, when teams know all your plays, you've played them 5 times, and now, you know everything about them. You just need a guy that, you know what I'm going to do, but you can't stop me. And they've got one guy like that, and that's Shea. That's why Dallas, I think, could beat them last year so handily, because they don't have that other guy. Now, Chet somewhat can be that. Yeah, I mean, he's growing into that. But not like Shea is the one guy they really can do it consistently, even though some of the others have improved. And that's a challenge for them.
Well,
kind of stepped on the stat.
What's the stat?
I did.
Yeah, kind of strong. Alex Caruso, who's not only a player on the Thunder, but he's also the name of a gambling guru who I follow on Twitter now.
Yeah. Guru might be strong for the guy on Twitter, but go ahead.
Well, wait till you hear this. You'll be like, wow, that guy is a guru.
Yeah, go ahead.
SGA now under his point total. In 6 of the last 7 games, he played against teams coached by Doc Rivers. Last 3, 12, 23, and last night, 21. So Doc is basically doing the exact thing Bruce said, like, I also know SGA because I coach at SGA on the Clippers. Yeah. I know all his tendencies. Could throw more people at him.
I mean, yeah. So maybe it sours me slightly on this exact finals matchup, OKC's chances. But I don't. I think that we're a long ways from that. And my answer is no, because Brew, everything you said about their potential limitations offensively, I agree with. The other workaround for that is make it so you don't need 120 to win. You need 100 to win. And they are, and by the way, that would have worked last night too. They just, they last night, any game where an NBA team hits these days less than 10 threes, you can almost be like, okay, well, they got no shot. But certainly games where you hit 5 of 30, and you're just never going to win those types of games. They are such a great defensive team. Yeah. And so deep with quality defenders and quality role players that they can sustain the inevitable, oh my God, this guy's out 6 weeks, like they're doing with Chet being out. Even, again, I know they lost last night. But and I also look at the West and East are so different this year in this regard. If we were to say the 5 best teams in the league, you might say OKC and 4 Eastern Conference teams, depending on how you feel about Milwaukee, if they can get in that group. The West is, but if you also said, hey, who are the 5 or the 7 worst teams in the league, it's going to be 2 Western Conference teams and the rest are in the East. So the point I'm making is, the West is super deep with good teams. But I think right now only has one really good to great team, and that's them. So and so I think that every round of the playoffs is tough, but they don't have another A-, A+ team in their conference. While in the East, you have Boston, obviously, Cleveland's playing great, the Knicks, who have been excellent, and a looming Milwaukee seeing what they can be.
Okay.
Memphis could rise. I'm watching them closely.
Ooh, okay.
Brew, I know you don't gamble. Man, oh man, you might want to make some NBA futures bets. Memphis right now, 35-1 to win the championship, behind Milwaukee.
I don't even know what that means.
There we go.
For every dollar, you win $35. Right. My goodness.
Kirk Cousins, welcome to Atlanta. Actually, going the other way. Goodbye from Atlanta. Benched after a woeful stretch where he threw 9 interceptions the last 5 games. Penix will be under center Sunday against the Giants. Here's Kirk's numbers from last year, and then obviously post-Achilles this year. The thing I want to draw your attention to is these deep shots. 131 passer rating on deep attempts over 20 yards. This year down to 97. Maybe it's Achilles base.
That's not horrible.
It's a 30-something
it's
rating drop. It's just
but I just
who he was. Little Justin
I wonder
Jefferson
if the
bias
left
in
of
there.
that is a Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison stat more than a Kirk Cousins stat. That's all.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Yeah, sure.
Was this
You just don't like Kirk Cousins.
Was this the right move?
I think they've handled every part of this wrong. So now they're at a spot where it was $90 million for 14 games played and 7 wins.
Tough one.
And by the way, I know they tried to spin this yarn of when we signed him, we knew we might draft a quarterback. Well, then you don't give him a no trade. Like, I do not think Kirk Cousins was going to ultimately turn down your $90 million fully guaranteed.
That's wild.
4-year,
Like,
180.
and the no trade.
Right, you know what I mean? It's like when it's almost like the OKC trade that netted them Shea when they got all those first-round picks for Paul George and I think like a 2029 second. It's like, really? Like that was going to scotch the deal? Or you were like, no, I want that too, and you just gave it to him. And so now, Kirk, is he tradable? Probably not, but the answer is doesn't matter because he's just going to force their hand. Another $10 million gets guaranteed early in the offseason, so he'll just say, I reject every trade.
Right.
You have 4 days to cut me, and then he can go sign the Russell Wilson deal
That's
somewhere,
the thing.
right,
Yep.
with someone for $1 million bucks. And now you are sneaky, maybe setting Penix up to succeed because you do have the Giants, Washington on national TV against another rookie, and then Carolina. But it's massive pressure because you are in the playoff race because of that. You're a game out of your division with the tiebreaker with Tampa. And narratively speaking, if you play Kirk the rest of the way and he turns it around, great. Then maybe you can trade him for something. If he plays poorly, okay, fine. Don't worry, guys. We have Penix there. You have now opened the potential avenue of Michael Penix, who might one day be awesome, struggling in this. I'm thrust into a playoff race at the end of a season, and now, with no time to redeem himself like like Bo Nix did, like Caleb did, and then Caleb went back down, like the ups and downs. And then all of a sudden in the offseason, your fans are like, Jesus, thought we had 2 quarterbacks. One guy's on the way out. The other guy didn't play well. So I just don't like any of it for the Falcons. I don't like any of it.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't have made this move. It's not going to kill me because obviously Cousins was playing so poorly. But I thought, like Nick, the fact that they're very much alive. Now,
Yes.
I think Tampa Bay will win that division, but they beat Tampa Bay twice.
Yes.
They're only a game back. They've got the tiebreaker. Washington will be a tough game, but
Giants, Carolina.
They got 3 winnable games and 2
You can
that
still
they
throw
definitely
on
should.
Washington, though.
Yeah,
It'll be on the Falcons
Washington,
defense,
I would
but
think would
the passer
beat them,
rating
but
against those guys,
you
you're
got
allowed
a chance to. Yeah, like you say, you got a chance to beat them. So that's why I'm surprised, and the money, because it is just embarrassing to have paid this guy $90 million for 14 games. I will throw this out. I agree with you. They've botched it completely, including a no trade. But kind of like the Niners, maybe they get lucky and Penix is actually good. Like the Niners obviously got lucky, but still, if he's good, it doesn't matter where you picked him. Nobody expect him. I mean, I don't think we expect him to be a star. But what if he is really good?
I think they expected him to be a star.
Okay, so if he's really good, and I'm not saying he's going to be great right away, but if he ends up being really good, you can survive this. Like Bo Nix, nobody's killing Denver right now for Russell Wilson because, hey, Bo Nix looks like he'll be okay.
You can survive it, but it's just like with the Niners thing. These are independent transactions. The Purdy pick papered over the Trey Lance disaster. Yeah. But absent the Trey Lance disaster, maybe Brock Purdy won a Super Bowl last year because he had first-round pick, because you had Micah Parsons on the team instead of nothing. Even if Penix works out, what you are missing there is the $90 million worth of players that you otherwise could have had. Right. So, you know what? So, again,
it's bad.
They're just independent things.
You just might survive it.
Can I say one thing to break? As you know, I'm the Achilles expert on the show, editor and CEO of Hobble Watch.
Yes.
When you look at people who have hurt their Achilles, the main person who has come back and like, wow, it doesn't even look like he hurt his Achilles, was Kevin Durant. He went 552 days between snapping my Achilles and a preseason game was 550. Kirk was on 316. If he was on the Durant schedule, he'd be playing in May.
Hold on. He was on 316 as of now or as of day one of the season?
Day one till September 8th. October 29th to September 8th.
Yeah.
So part of me thinks Kirk Cousins is washed. I think that we've been watching the last few games. Part of me thinks everyone thinks the Achilles you can just come back from. Aaron Rodgers thought it. Kirk Cousins thought it. Like, no, it's not a year-long injury. You need to be on the Durant thing and come back and be great. Maybe Aaron Rodgers playing well because it's not a year. It's a year plus. And all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers flirting with 300-yard games again.
Look, I think that's fair. And, Nick, I think, let's say Penix looks bad in these next 3 games if he plays all 3.
They're not bringing Kirk back.
No.
Why not? If I have to pay the guy $50 million anyway,
no, they shut
or the dead cap is going to be roughly 50, maybe even higher.
I think they shut the door on that.
See, I disagree. Like, I think if Penix looks bad, and I'm not saying he's done for his career, but I would still consider I got to pay you anyway.